Hello YouTube Pipers, Double O Pipe back again. I thought I'd try and finish that story I started. I hope I get it all right. Anyway, I'm back to my emerald cob, for which they did not send me an emerald stem. They sent this multicolored one. I'm still ticked I didn't get my emerald stem. And I filled it with Captain Black Royal, just for the heck of it. Well, as I closed out the last one, Granddad has gotten us back to the house, and the grill was ready for cooking hamburgers and hot dogs. And most of the family was there by then. Dad was over there by the grill. Grandmama had fixed the ingredients for the ice cream, and it was in the central portion of the churn. She put the paddle in and closed it up. And everybody was taking a turn, but everybody said I was too little. But I didn't think I was too little. But anyway, I went over and lay down under the chinaberry tree in the grass, had my piece of ice in my hand, and I was sucking on that and rubbing it on my forehead because it was cool, laying down in the grass because it was cool, and I just watched the insects flying by, June bugs and such. My other cousins were over climbing in the weeping willow tree. I looked over and Clyde was churning. So I just started dozing off. Just as I was about to sleep, Clyde started yelling, "Mama!" And I kind of jerked awake and looked over at him, looked, what's wrong with him? And I just closed my eyes again. Again he yelled, "Mama!" Grandma came out. She said, "Land sakes, what's wrong with you, Clyde? What you yelling about? I don't want the neighbors fussing at us about your yelling." He said, "Ricky's over there just laying about. He isn't helping at all." And she said, "Well, he's too little." And I jumped up and I said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I can do it. I can do it. Let me churn." And she said, "You really think you can?" I said, "Yeah, I know I can. Clyde will show me how." She said, "All right, Clyde, show him how to do it. I'm going back in. I got things to do." He smiled. That twinkle came in his eye. He said, "Yes, ma'am, I'll show him how." I still hadn't figured out that smile and twinkle in the eye. So I walked over to him and I said, "What'd I do?" He said, "Okay, first, you want to churn ice cream, right?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "You really think you're big enough?" He said, "Yes, I do." So he said, "All right, come here. Now you got to stand right here. And then you got to churn from there." And I said, "Well, if I stand here, I can't reach that thing, so the turn." He said, well, that's where you got to stand. I said, well, I got to stand here. That smile came on his face, and he said, because you got to be this far away so that your body heat doesn't interrupt the cooling of the ice cream on the inside. I said, well, I can't reach that handle. He said, well, lean into it. So I leaned in, tried to get it, still couldn't reach it. He said, lean a little bit more. And I leaned a little bit more and about fell over. And I said, well, I can't do it if I got to stand there. He said, well, okay. Come over here and let's get a little closer then and see if you can do it that way. I said, well, what about my body heat? He said, we'll have to hope that it doesn't make the ice cream go sour. I said, what? Ice cream doesn't go sour. He says, well, it can if your body heat interferes with it too much. I said, well, I don't think that. He said, all right, well, stand where you are now and see if you can reach that handle. So I could reach it. He said, okay. I said, what do I do now? He said, turn it. I said, I can't turn it. It's too hard. He said, lean your other hand on this side and hold on to it and then try. So I jerked it around about 4 times and got it around in one circle. I said, I did it one time. He said, that isn't enough. You got to do that at least 20 times. I said, 20 times? He said, yeah, you got to do it at least 20 times a minute. I said, what's a minute? He said, you don't know what a minute is? I said, no. He said, well, you gotta churn at least 20 times a minute. Make sure that it goes around. I said, well, how am I going to know? I don't know what a minute is. How am I going to do that? He says, go get a watch from somebody. So I ran around the yard to everybody and said, you got a watch, you got a watch. And nobody had a watch. So I went back to Clyde and I said, Clyde, nobody's got a watch. I guess I can't help. And Granddaddy walked over. That's Clyde's dad. He had that same smile and that same twinkle in his eye, just like Clyde. He said, I understand you need a watch, young fella. I said, yeah, Clyde says I got to turn this thing 20 times a minute. And I got to have a watch to know what a minute is. He said, well, I'll tell you what. He took his pocket watch out of his pocket and unattached it to that fob and opened it up and handed it to me. He said, you can use this, but make sure you don't drop it. And he was chuckling the whole time he was handing me this. And I looked over and my dad was smiling too. And I looked at my mother and she had this disapproving look on her face as she looked at Dad. Anyway, I took the watch over to Clyde and I said, well, here's a watch. I said, what's a minute? He said, see that long hand that's moving real fast around? I said, yeah. He said, when it goes from here all the way around up to here again, that's a minute. That's called the second hand. I said, well, which one's the first and which one's the third hand? He said, Neff, what you trying to do, make it complicated? I said, no, I'm just wanting to know what it is. He said, don't worry about that. Just worry about a minute. 60 seconds is 1 minute. Now, you got to turn that thing 20 times as that thing goes around that dial. Now, he said, get in your position. Lean on this thing. I said, well, how am I going to hold that watch and turn this crank? He said, don't worry about it. I'll hold a watch for you. I said, all right. So I leaned into it, grabbed a hold of that crank, and just hard as I could, turning it. I think the ice cream was almost solid, so that's why it was so hard. But I didn't know that. Anyway, I was jerking it around. I said, is that 20 times a minute? He said, no, probably too late now. I said, what you mean? He said, all this time you've been wasting, You probably let the ice cream go sour. I said, nuh-uh. He said, yeah. I remember the first time I did it, it went sour. I said, ice cream goes sour? He said, yeah, if you don't churn it right, yeah. If you don't get the right number of churns in there, yeah. If you don't get your body heat next to it like you're supposed to, yeah, it can go sour. I said, maybe if I churned it a little bit more. He said, I'll tell you what, you go ahead and try churning some more and I'll go get some more ice. So I was just pushing as hard as I could around, leaning on that churn, just a pushing and a pushing. And he came over after chipping some ice and poured a cup of ice in there and some salt on top of it. I said, what you think? I churned it some more while you were gone. He said, well, all we can do, Neff, is hope that it didn't turn sour. I said, you mean that's it? He said, yeah, I think we better quit now. So I was kind of, didn't know what to say. I thought if I messed up the ice cream, everybody's going to be mad at me. Well, I closed up the pocket watch and took it over to Granddad and said, here, Granddad, here's your watch. And he said, why you look so sad, young fella? As he chuckled, twinkle in his eye. He heard everything Clyde said to me. I said, no, I'm okay. I think it's going to be okay. I did my part. He said, okay. Don't worry about it. So anyway, I went back over to the chinaberry tree. Kind of got on the other side of the trunk of the chinaberry tree so they couldn't see me because I was concerned. I had messed up the ice cream. It was going to be sour. Well, Grandma rang the dinner bell and said, everybody come and eat. So we all gathered around the tables, got paper plates, went to the grill where Dad was cooking the hamburgers and hot dogs. All got us some hamburgers, hot dogs, and went and sat down in the grass and all around the tables, and everybody was just a chatting away, having a good old time, eating hamburgers and hot dogs and potato salad and everything that was available. About 30 or 40 minutes later, after we had all kind of finished up that, and I was still over behind the chinaberry tree eating my hamburger. And Clyde yelled out, ice cream for ice cream. And everybody took up the cry, ice cream for ice cream. And I was thinking to myself, oh, goodness, I'm going to be in trouble now because I probably messed up the ice cream. Clyde told me I messed it up, and he knows what he's talking about because he said he messed up the first churn he did when he was about my age, and everybody was just as mad at him, he said. Well, everybody started moving towards the churn, and Clyde had pulled out some, put it in a dish, and put some chocolate syrup on top of it, and said since Ricky helped, he gets the first bowl. And I was thinking to myself, I get to taste sour ice cream before anybody else. I said, no, I don't think I want any ice cream. He said, no, you get the first honors because you helped. It's your first time churning ice cream and you get to taste the first bowl. I said, I don't think I want any. And everybody started yelling, get the ice cream. We want ice cream. Get your ice cream. So I walked over and got my plate. He gave me a spoon. And I didn't want to taste this. If it was sour, I didn't want it. I mean, I like ice cream is supposed to be, not sour ice cream. So anyway, I took a small amount from the top, put it in my mouth, and boy, this rich, sugary, sweet stuff just exploded in my mouth. And I got the biggest grin on my face, and I said, Clyde, I did it, I did it, I didn't make it sour. With that smile and that glint in the eye, he said, you did do a good job, Neff. How about that? Then everybody went and got a big bowl of ice cream, and the day just ended up with everybody smiling, full stomachs out to here because we had eaten so much, and then topped it off with peach ice cream, and I had chocolate sauce on mine. And I had done my part to help. And Granddaddy was just over there chuckling. We did that lots more after that, and I didn't worry about making sour ice cream. I just tried to churn as much as I could, even though it was, Clyde always left it till last when it's just about solid, and told me I better churn that 20 times a minute. So I know where Clyde got his mischievousness from, so however you pronounce it. I know where he got it from. He got it from his daddy. Because I saw Clyde in his face whenever he smiled at me, handing me that pocket watch. Summer days. In the backyard cookout. They were good times. Now, the last time we had a cookout, it was here. Clyde and Granddaddy and even Grandmama were gone by that time. It was 4th of July. The hottest 4th of July I remember in my entire life. And it was just miserable. So it really wasn't any fun. It's just too hot. Too hot. But this particular one, back in my childhood, I remember. Because I was really worried that I had ruined that ice cream. But it turned out okay. And it was a good day. All right, once again, I hope y'all are all doing well. And I'll say, let me get my thumb right there. I will say to all of you, God bless. Until next time.